Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at the newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle. Joining me for this endeavour is the UK's answer to Woody Allen, Josh Howie, and the US answer to Jeffrey Epstein, Lewis Schaefer. I mean, it is. You do look like him. I mean, I'm not trying to imply anything untoward.
You're talking about me or Jeffrey here.
Lewis.
People have said I'm more like Woody Allen, though.
Oh, really?
Thank you for saying that.
Oh, well, I had to
Well,
say
you do date your wife's daughter.
Do you know what? I don't care what people say. As long as I look good. As long as I would rather look like Jeffrey Epstein.
You'd rather look like Jeffrey Epstein.
I'd rather look like Jeffrey Epstein. When I was fat, I looked like Harvey Weinstein. And now I just look amazing.
You can't win, can you, Lewis? OK, before we begin, let's have a look at the front pages for Thursday. So the Daily Mail is leading with PM tells police chiefs time to end mob rule. And the Telegraph has Hunt looks at ditching non-dom tax perk. And The Guardian has largest review of ultra-processed food, warns of 32 damaging effects. The Mirror has never had it so bad. And the iNews leads with budget won't fix UK's unfair £50,000 child benefit rule, so Hunt can afford tax cuts. And finally, the Daily Star on Thursday is leading with let them eat flakes. We'll solve that mystery in a bit. Those will be your front pages. So we're going to kick off the in-depth look into the papers with Thursday's Telegraph. Josh, what have they got?
Telegraph is chock-a-block. Chock-a-block with news.
Oh, really? Well, I would hope so, given that it's a newspaper.
Well, you say that, but
yes.
Actually sometimes there's a lot of fluff in there. But no, not in the Telegraph today. It's all good. Let's get down to it. We've got a story here. Labour failed to declare donations over anti-Semitism fears. Turns like they had a Jewish donor in 2017, and he was, because it was all kicking off with the anti-Semitism, the person who was in charge of the donations didn't reveal where they came from.
Right.
But the actual donor saying, no, it was just a mistake. Anyway, I'm sure they're going to try and blow this up into something that's bigger than it really is.
OK.
I don't think that's the big story of the day. There's now the big story that is a bit bigger is the trans cat killer is listed as a female murderer. This is in all the official court documents, but also now, when you look at the crime statistics, it will say...
Yeah, we should clarify this. So this was a murderer who was born male,
Well, yeah.
Identified as female, killed a cat in a really horrific... put it in a blender or something, then went on to kill a complete stranger in Oxford, has been found guilty.
Yeah.
But all
identifies as
But all of the press are calling this person she. In fact, there was an article on the Guardian website which suggested it was a woman the whole way through.
Absolutely. And one of its journalists of 20 years, Louise Tickle, who's like won awards for them, just said it was absolutely disgusting and there was no sign that at all this person was trans. But this has an impact in terms of... like I said, crime statistics, but they use those crime statistics for research, for crime prevention. So now it looks like suddenly there's a big spike in psycho cat-killing, murdering women, and it's not.
This is a problem. So what the BBC and what the Guardian are saying is that because the courts refer to the killer as she and refer to the killer as a woman, because the police do as well, they have to follow the same protocol. Actually, that's not accurate. So the press regulation... It is perfectly within the press's remit for people in the media to say this individual who identifies as female and is referred to as female in the court proceedings was, however, born male. That would be perfectly fine.
But this is
a choice.
This is a choice, but not in this case. In the now it's down legally as. Forgetting just how it was reported, it was now a woman committed this crime.
So that's a problem, isn't it, Lewis? The crime statistics matter, particularly when it comes to sex. Right? We need to know who's killing who. We can't have a sudden exponential rise of female murderers and rapists all of a sudden. Doesn't really make sense, does it?
Well, there's two questions here, two situations. One is equity. I mean, people are always fighting for equity. This is actually making men and women more equal.
So you're saying because there are far more male criminals that actually
who murder.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing that there are now more females.
I mean, men actually kill, and women soul murder. They reputational murder. They destroy your lives. But they don't.
Generalizations don't really help.
He's talking specifically about his relationship.
I know an N1 Lewis Schaefer. I've seen it. But the truth is that the second truth is that this is the law of unintended consequences.
Yes.
I don't know whether there's a name for that. I mean, I guess there is a name, law of unintended consequences.
Yeah, you just said it. Yeah, you said what the name is.
Is when you start to deceive. And a little evil web. Do you?
You can't even get the maxim right. It was a really bad attempt, actually.
Well, good control.
Well, I knew there was one. At least I knew there was one.
Just back to you for just a little bit of sense.
News.
Of news. What's the final story?
The big story, Hunt looking at ditching the non-dom tax perk. Now, this is a Labour policy, and I guess that Labour thought that they were safe to announce it before the election because they thought, yeah, there's no way the Tories are going to...
What, they're ditching non-dom tax perk? What does that mean exactly?
So basically, for people who live in the UK but earn most of their money outside of the UK, you can have non-dom status, so you don't have to pay any tax on the money that's earned abroad. So we've got a bunch of rich people who love living in the UK because of our arts, because of our TV stars like Lewis Schaefer, who looks like Jeffrey Epstein, and they don't pay the appropriate taxes to live here. Now, like I said, I think Labour felt safe to announce this policy. They didn't think that the Tories would nick it, but this is how desperate the economy is because they're so desperate Hunt is so desperate to have a bit of leeway in the next financial budget.
But there's also the law of unintended consequences. When you stop rich people from living in the country, they don't bring their money here. They don't land their place.
You're not stopping them. You're just saying, why don't you pay your fair share?
No, that is inherent leftist policy, your fair share.
Lewis, is it not...
Pay any share, then.
Is it not
They
the case
do. They hire
rich
people
became rich for a reason, that they're pretty miserly, and maybe they will live abroad if it means that they're going to save an awful lot.
No, they will live abroad. They are looking for the best place to live for their money. They sit there saying, where should we live?
Yeah.
They're not taking advantage. Some of them are benefiting from it, but they all own houses here. I've got a friend. Oh, I've got one rich friend. Well, it's not a friend. But he has a house. The house was vacant, and he's fixing it up. He's spending... I don't know how much money he spends.
Is it relevant to the story, Lewis?
Yes.
Just wants to boast. Just constantly boasting about your friends, his rich friends. Look, it could bring us $6 billion to the economy.
Well, there we go.
And how much will it take out?
We're going to move on. We're going to move on to the front cover of The Guardian. Lewis, tell us, what is The Guardian leading with on Thursday?
The Guardian is leading with...
Try not to be too happy about the story.
Well, I'm not happy about it because it's the same old rubbish. It's a largest review of ultra-processed food warns of 32 damaging effects.
Surely it's more than that, I would have thought.
There's only one damaging effect from maybe two, from ultra-processed food, and that is diabetes type 2. And that's what ultra-processed food is. It's made up of crushed grain, of sugar, and seed oils, which some people call toxic. I won't call them toxic because I know you'd have to say they're not toxic. But it's those seed oils that we call vegetable oils that are not made with vegetables.
It says, this article doesn't say just diabetes. We're also talking about common mental disorders,
which is type 2, which is diabetes.
Mortality outcomes.
Right, which is all diabetes, Alzheimer's, diabetes.
So
there was an article.
You just didn't want to read the article.
No, I read the article. Why are you always accusing me? You're bringing me down in the eyes of these people.
That all diseases ultimately are connected to diabetes?
I'm not the only one who believes that, and there are people out there who believe it. You can Google me at the textbook, Twitter me. Sorry, whoops. And all diseases basically, because cancer, for example, is caused by, it cannot grow without glucose, and glucose is carbs. And
OK, Dr. Lewis Schaefer there with his diagnosis of the nation. We're going to move on to the front cover of Thursday's Mail. Josh, you got this?
PM tells police chiefs time to end mob rule. So, 4 or 5 months too late, possibly if they got on top of this 5 months ago, once the bodies were still, the murdered bodies in Israel, and people were out celebrating and saying
but wait a minute, Josh, wait a minute. You can't just clamp down on peaceful protest.
No, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't peaceful. And they had the laws to deal with it 5 months ago.
Yeah, they should have dealt with the violent protesters.
Yeah, but not just but also they should have, like, Islamists literally chanting for jihad in the streets.
Yeah.
And the
well, they
police
did deal with that. I mean, they've made Hizb ut-Tahrir an illegal organisation now, haven't they?
I know, but what I'm saying is they should have done it. No, but even if you have people in the street with literally the word jihad, calling for jihad on the streets, they didn't do anything about it. Anyway, now we are 5 months later. Things have escalated. You have this insane footage. You have Tower Bridge being shut down the other day. No one arrested, of course, setting flares off there. You have people, a bunch of Tories, no offence if I say slightly old Tories, having a pint. And then they're all kind of accosted, and all these people sort of run in and start pointing and screaming at them. You have people outside MPs' houses screaming at their family.
Can I ask you, though, Josh? A lot of this does seem to come from the left. As in, you don't see right-wing protesters resorting to violence in this way, do you?
No, I mean, but it's mob rule. And yes, we are talking about Islamists and
Not
cranks.
just Islamists, though.
And cranks. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
And Philo,
and the cranks who I believe protect them.
Yeah. Lewis, what do you think of this? Because why can't they just apply the law? I mean, I really do mean why you know, they don't arrest Just Stop Oil when they're smashing windows, which, as far as I'm aware, isn't legal. They don't arrest people for throwing fireworks at the police or clambering onto public property. Why don't they just say, you can protest for whatever you like, because it's a free country, but you just can't break the law? How difficult can that possibly be?
It can be pretty difficult when you're a country that is on the way down.
Way down?
Yeah, it's on the way down.
Supposed to mean?
It's lost its will. It has no respect. I got to be careful with what I say because I'm in a very cranky mood.
Do you know what? Don't be careful what you say because people don't watch you for your, caution.
Because I'm going to go too far. This is the sheer arrogance of the English people, is that they have lost, and when I say English, I mean English, and a lot of British people too, but English people, is they think that there will always be in England. And there won't be in England unless you fight for it.
Okay.
People have stopped fighting for it.
Vague, mysterious, esoteric note. I'm going to have a look at the front cover of the Metro very quickly, Lewis.
Oh, it's Prince Harry. And that's what's great about this channel. It's all Harry and Meghan all the time.
It's not. We rarely cover it on this.
Well, because, and that's why the ratings. We want more ratings. You gotta talk. Well, the ratings are good, but I mean, it could be better with Prince Harry.
All right, well, let's
Harry.
Tell us the story.
He's lost police protection. Yeah,
but he's no longer a member of the royal family.
He's not working. He's not working.
What I mean is a working member.
But how bad would it be if he? Wait, no. Can I just make a point?
Have you read the story?
I did read the story, but he's gonna whatchamacallit? He's going to appeal.
He is going to whatchamacallit.
He's going to appeal.
Josh, can you just interpret what
Would
Lewis
you stop saying I didn't read the story?
You two have got to stop squabbling.
OK,
Josh.
There's been a High Court decision that he is not entitled to getting police protection.
OK.
He's saying that's why he's not here, and that's why he's not bringing his family over, and he's now going to appeal that decision. It seems somewhat punitive. It feels to me like he kind of...
but he's not a working royal, so...
Yeah, but, he's...
So he's now a rich Hollywood celebrity. Do we do this for Tom Cruise?
Or should he pay
do we do it for John Travolta?
I do. I think we should do it for those.
Well, actually,
maybe not John Travolta. He hasn't had a hit for a while.
I bet they do it for those people. We don't know about it. They do it for Tom Cruise. The truth is, how bad would it look if something happened to Prince Harry? How bad would...
What do you... Don't put people...
How bad would it look for the country? Let's be honest.
OK. Let's go to a break now. I'm going to deal with these two, make sure that they're well behaved in the next section. Those were your front covers.
He's saying I'm not
Lewis,
reading.
I'm trying to do a cue.
He's undermining the show.
So professional, I can't believe it. I'm going to thrash him. I'm going to thrash him to a bloody pulp.
Say you're kidding.
In the next section, we're going to be talking about what the Tories think of Islamists, potty training, and the GBNews payroll. So don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World. Fridays from 7 p.m.
Dr. Jane Jones, who's the clinical lead for Care After Combat.
Yeah.
Jane, thanks for coming. And just tell me a little bit about your organisation. What do you do?
OK, well, thank you for having me here so we can talk about Care After Combat. So we are an organisation, a charity, who work into the prison system, working with military veterans who've somehow got involved with the justice system and...
So there's quite a high population of ex-servicemen and women in our prisons. Why is that, do you think?
So 2014, the government did a review of who was resident in UK prisons, and what they found were that military veterans are the highest occupational group, and this obviously raises some concerns. Yeah. So the government wanted to do something about that, and so they supported Care After Combat initially, just as a scoping exercise, really, to see if there was any way we could help these men and women actually, understand the problems that led to offending behaviour and go on to lead successful lives.
So what sort of offending behaviour are we talking typically for people that's in prison that's actually served in our armed forces?
Primarily, it's violence.
Yeah.
So that is the highest offence that we work with.
Okay.
But of course, the military, as with everybody else, it's the full range of offending behaviour.
OK, so we're in a pub, Jane, Dr. Jane, And I guess for some people, you know, the odd tip of alcohol is good, a bit of fun of a weekend, relax, let your hair down. But for some people, alcohol is not always their best friend, and I guess that plays a part in some of your veterans that end up inside.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, speaking from my own experience, a good 2/3 of the people I work with have some kind of mental health problem or mental health difficulty, struggling to either adapt into civilian life or with some of the traumas they've experienced during service. People might self-medicate with alcohol to manage some of those thoughts and feelings.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. The Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Thursday's newspaper, and I'm here with the bickering Jews, Josh Howie and Lewis Schaefer. That's going to be your stage name.
The bickering... Well, you know what? I wanted to start a podcast with Lewis.
Yeah.
And we've recorded like a half-hour thing, and it was just us bickering. I thought this was genius. And then we've just been bickering ever since about him not doing...
Yeah, I think you two need to sort this out. I think there's some sexual tension in the air, if I'm not honest.
Well,
something like that.
As mother,
him and my wife.
I haven't had the nerve to tell him that I'm not Jewish. Wow. That I've been doing this
it's all been fake.
It's all been an act.
Well, it's helped my career. It's gotten me here, but now it's not good to be a Jew anymore. So I'm...
What, you're going to put the foreskin back on? Are we allowed to say that?
Let's not go there. OK, let's move on now to Thursday's Guardian,
How do you know?
Josh. And they're trying to make things kick off between Tories and Muslims. Is that right?
Yes. Well, more than half of Tory members in polls say Islam is a threat to British way of life. Now, when we're talking about this, we have to be obviously so very, very careful about our language.
Yes.
Because some people might hear Islam and think Muslims, and that might be an understandable thing.
Yeah.
But are we talking about Islam as a religion, which of course has a spectrum to it of observance and certain ideas that some people will definitely not agree with in a Western liberal democracy in terms of portraying images of the Prophet Muhammad or whatever? Or are we talking about Muslims, the people who follow that religion? So this here says Islam, and this is why, of course, we have a problem with the word Islamophobia, which is deliberately designed to conflate the two and create a bit of a muddle.
Isn't there an added trouble with the phrase Islamist, which of
No,
course...
I don't think so at all. I think Islamist is a very clear word, which is Islamic extremists.
Yeah.
People pursuing it. So people have to be really careful about this. Now, this was a poll that was carried out by Hope Not Hate. Now, Hope Not Hate, on the face of it, has done a lot of good, but they've done a lot of good with right-wing organisations. They brought down some serious extremists.
They're also cranks.
Well, here's the other thing. They don't direct any of their... They've done one thing once about, like, left-wing anti-Semitism, like, minor little report. But the reality is, we know that there's this huge amount of racism coming from the far left. There's also, frankly, racism coming from the Muslim parts of the Muslim community.
Right.
So the fact that they've not directed any of their efforts there, when 90% of terrorist convictions have been from Islamic extremism, for me, suggests massive hypocrisy.
Well, how about the poll that showed that a little over 50% of British Muslims believe that homosexuality should be against the law?
Well, this is it.
That strikes me as a problem.
Well, that strikes a problem, and that would be part of Islam in terms of probably...
Those aren't extremists.
Yeah, those are, yeah. So anyway, the point of this poll, there's a poll of 521 Conservative members, found that 58% say Islam poses a threat to the country. Now, if Islam... One of the things it proposes is that homosexuality is wrong, and that leads to a majority of Muslims thinking that homosexuality is wrong, then yes, arguably, that does lead to a threat to this country in terms of us having a liberal democracy where people can be whatever sexuality they want.
I suppose it doesn't. If it's a numbers game, isn't it? Muslims are still a tiny minority of this country, right? They don't have that kind of clout. Where it does have an impact is with Sharia courts, which we've had for decades now, which don't have legal standing, but they do have standing within certain communities, and that's bad for gay Muslims. It's bad for female Muslims.
Well, you say that, but let's talk about, like, we're not talking necessarily about immediate threat to our laws, but we are talking about an Islamic extremist murdered 3 homosexuals in a park, and that is a threat to our country.
But again,
that's the safety of homosexuals in this country.
Wasn't because of Islam. That was because he was an Islamic extremist.
Yes, but you can't. There is a correlation there at some level. Now, when we have to discuss this and discuss it, hopefully in a mature way, is where the conversation needs to be had.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned mature way, because I wanted to bring Lewis in at this point. What do you think about this delicate story? Which I'm sure you will phrase very delicately.
They asked 525 conservative members, they're party members of the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
They're a special group amongst this special group. They didn't ask all conservative voters or even all people who are leaning conservative. They just asked the most conservative. And this 58% thought there was a threat. Now, a threat of Islam in the country. The truth is...
a threat of Islam.
The truth is like, as Ben Shapiro says, facts don't... feelings. What does he say?
He says facts don't care about your feelings.
Facts don't care about your feelings. The truth is the left has always cared about feelings, right? That's what they believe in. Here, they're denigrating people whose feelings are that there's something dangerous going on. It's a feeling. And these people are told, you cannot feel that.
I think ultimately, Islamism and extremism is a threat to our liberal values. But also another threat to our liberal values would be clamping down on religious freedom, and that would trouble me as well.
But why can't we just say, like, for example, these are about feelings. It could be reality, but these people have a genuine feeling, which is something's not quite right going on.
OK, well, look, we're going to move on to another story in The Guardian now, and I'm shocked that all the Tory MPs combined nearly make as much as I do.
Yeah. Well, I was paid £10,000 last week, but it wasn't included in the figures, thank God. So I'm not embarrassed by this. Why can't I get more money, Andrew?
I knew that this was going to become about your salary. The story is about GBNews paying, if you total up the salaries of various presenters who happen to be Tory MPs, it comes to, what was the figure?
660,000.
Why are they delving into people's salaries?
Because journalists.
Because what it is it's not just interesting. It's you want to know whether your MPs are being bought off, and that's what this is.
It feels like a non-story insofar as it's not. They're getting paid for work that they do at the channel. That's nothing to do with what they do in Parliament.
A case could be made that if somebody has a job working for Merck, what's the drug company, working for Pfizer, they could say, well, they're working for Pfizer. What do we care if they're the Ministry of Health?
There's no rules being broken here. That's what I don't understand.
And they actually do point that out. And they also say that it's for presenting. They make that clear as opposed to people's appearances, because the channel does feature Labour MPs as well.
But they're paid a fraction.
Well, no, but they're not. But they don't have their own show. There is a danger here. What it talks about is the danger of this being a populist echo chamber for the party's MPs. That is a danger. I think any media outlet, anywhere really, nowadays has that danger.
Why is that a danger, John?
Why is it a danger?
You always say things as if they're like fact.
Well, I just said it could be a danger.
Josh, but do you really think that a Labour MP would accept a presenting job?
Well, that's the other point I was just about to make, is that that's the real shame, is that I know that certain people have been approached and won't sort of.
So this is the age-old problem, you know. GBNews gets accused of being a right-wing echo chamber, and because that accusation is out there, lots of left-wing people refuse to come on, and that therefore perpetuates the predominance of right-wing voices. Now, I would argue against that. As far as on my show, Free Speech Nation, I do have probably slightly more left than right-wing voices in terms of the guests and things.
Because you're lovely, Andrew.
So it's not all the... And actually, even on headliners...
Look, you're liberal. I'm left-wing. You're insane. So it all...
This is a good balance we've got here.
Yeah. No, but can I just talk about this? Is that what's wrong with this being a right-wing echo chamber? The BBC is basically a left-wing echo chamber. What's wrong with having one channel out of hundreds and thousands of different
Because
YouTube
one of the
channels?
things that appeals to me about GB News is that we do hear all different voices and we do hear all different opinions.
Only because we hear the voices that we don't usually hear, and those are the
Well,
right-wing voices.
I think that's it. A lot of people
and those are the right-wing voices. So why do we need to hear left-wing voices?
You know, well, no, because to add to that, John Simpson put out a tweet this week that said that that BBC and Sky and Channel 4 jumped through hoops to be impartial, and it was like.
No, they did right.
It's like they jump through hoops to promote gender ideology. That's what I said. They jump through hoops to demonise Israel. They jump through hoops to call terrorists combatants or whatever
I think I think it's a distinction. They jump through hoops to be politically impartial in terms of Tories versus Labour. Yeah. They don't when it comes to ideological impartiality, exactly. And that's where they get it completely wrong. They can't even call a male killer a male killer. They have to call her a woman.
So for me, it's like the thing about this is what I said about GB News is we're not perfect. But we're not sanctimonious, and I don't believe we're hypocrites in that.
OK, well, after dealing with Islam and our own HR department, let's move on to a safe story now. Josh, the Northern Irish Troubles.
Oh, those were the good old days, weren't they?
Much easier back then.
Just so much. Everything was just like you had the IRA and.
The UDA and the UDR.
We just knew our words.
And the UFF.
Yeah, easy peasy.
And the DUP.
All of that. If you knew your letters, if you knew your letters, it was all good.
Yeah, it's all letters.
Anyway, amnesty for troubles veterans incompatible with the European human rights law. Now, this wasn't the European Human Rights Court who made this. Yeah. This was the Belfast court. That basically, and they've sort of come about it in an interesting way, where they've said, now this was a policy that the government had put through recently, which was to give amnesty to British soldiers as long as everybody kind of admitted what they did, and terrorists as well. And the idea was that they'd be able to move forward. But what this court has said is it breaks the rules guaranteeing a protection of life. And the idea being that if you can't follow through on killings, then that threatens life somehow.
But this is specifically related to soldiers, people who were in the army.
And
where does this leave paramilitaries?
Well, yeah, but it's going to work both ways, I imagine. But this
is a big ethical question, isn't it? Because when it came to the Good Friday Agreement, you did have lots of, frankly, murderers walking free as a result of that agreement. But that's the price they had to pay to reach that point of truth and reconciliation.
Yeah.
So, you know, as horrible that must be, particularly if you're related to some of the victims, you know, but on the other hand...
you ask.
But on the other hand, I do think it makes me very nervous when crimes are committed and they're not brought to justice, and that goes for members of the British Army, for instance, on Bloody Sunday.
But you asked the question, does it work for paramilitaries as well? Are they going to suddenly say, OK, the deal that we signed is off the table and now we're going to go after Tommy Sands or something, or whatever?
You know, Bobby Sands, Bobby Sands. Hunger strike in the 1980s.
Tommy Sands!
I'm not that familiar with this.
Well, luckily, that's not a sensitive issue whatsoever that you've just joked about.
I genuinely thought for years that the U2 song went, someday... Bloody someday.
Someday.
I'm just being honest.
But you made the point. You made the point. Are they going to? The question is, it hasn't been answered. Are they going to open it up?
No. And I'm frankly too offended to continue with this conversation. We've made it halfway. Oh. We're still on there, though. Just let's see if we can last the next section with the evil white gays, not homosexuals, but gays. TikTok news. And Frankie gets boiled. See you in a moment.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
to find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right. We want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
We have let Islamist extremism into Britain, we've let it fester, and now we've let it win. Our absolutely spineless surrender merchant political top brass are rolling over while government ministers wear stab vests and quit their jobs in fear. Veteran Tory Minister Mike Freer has had death threats from Islamists, as well as an alleged arson attack on his office. The motive there has still not been established. He's standing down because he doesn't want to die. I cannot emphasise how important this is. A minister of the government is quitting his job because he doesn't want to be killed by a lunatic jihadi. And our Prime Minister has said absolutely nothing. Nothing. A spokesman for Rishi Sunak said he was saddened. Is that it? Our Prime Minister should have been out on the steps of Downing Street saying that we will not be intimidated. We will not let this continue. Enough is enough. What does he do instead? He tweets about XL bullies. Yeah, fantastic. Where's Keir Starmer on this? Well, he's conducting focus groups on how to get the Muslim vote back, so he's hardly going to come out all guns blazing, is he? Ed Davey? Well, there's no way a Liberal Democrat leader would come out and admit that his ideology has helped turn Britain into a poster nation for multicultural failure. The police have let protesters, which include rabid anti-Semites, rampage around London every flipping Saturday for the last 3 months, and today they are finally saying that they don't support some of the protests, which in the past have included a now banned terror group and people holding up anti-Jewish signs. They're saying, please don't march down Whitehall. All right, but will you do anything to stop them if they ignore you? I doubt it. I honestly cannot believe that we have sunk to the level where a serving minister stands down because of threats from extremists and our Prime Minister just doesn't feel the need to address it.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Thursday's newspapers. Let's get straight back into it with the Mail, and at least Justin Trudeau can go and see this play.
Yes, but before we get started, I bought you a cup. I'm bringing everybody cups, except for Josh. This says, here's my gift to you.
I can't see it.
I gave the same cup to Nick, but he...
Oh, if anyone can see, it says, ladies, any takers. And there's an image of Lewis Schaefer on the other side, looking very, very sexy.
Where's my cup? I specifically asked you for a cup.
I've decided not to give you a cup because you've been totally mean to me.
OK, we're going to have to put a stop to this bickering because we have news to get through.
The truth is I ran out of cups. I'm going to give you a cup.
You'll get a cup, Josh.
I'll give you a cup. I told you I'll give you a cup.
Lewis, thank you for the erotic
You can go to lewisschaefer.co.uk.
Oh, I knew you were going to put... You're plugging it. It's merchandise. It's merch.
Well, you've done nothing to raise the amount of money that I'm getting. I mean, really, so let's be honest.
Okay,
all right.
Let's look at the Mail. The Mail, what's the
Mail? Here's the Mail. The Mail is West End Play tells white theatregoers they aren't welcome as it hosts all-black audience nights at Kit Harington production. And this
Isn't he white?
And he is white. He's white.
So is he going to stay at home that night?
No, he's going to be there. This is at the Noel Coward Theatre, and he was like really white, Noel Coward. He was one of your people, gay. And so they're saying there's too many white audiences.
Yes.
And they've got white plays like Oklahoma. That was an all-white play.
Is that an all-white play?
And so they're bringing in. They want to have a black identifying.
Wait. Look, I don't care what plays are about or whether they're about white people or black people or both or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. Why would you start racially segregating the audience?
Because it's a way to get into the Daily Mail. It's publicity. No black person's going to go to this thing. It is such pandering. You know, no human would go if they did a thing that just said this is just for Jewish people night. No, even Josh wouldn't go.
Well, I don't know. I have been to clubs where when I was walking in, they said to me, you do realise this is just for gay people. And I said, oh, you think I'm straight?
That's what did it, was it?
And I was like, yeah, exactly. But that was back in the day. I don't think they would do that now.
Yeah.
What do you think, Josh?
I think they might, or this is just for men or whatever. It's weird because there was the lesbian club that opened recently.
Yeah, that's actually happening. Jenny Watson's opening.
So I wonder if there's a sort of fragmentation, but this...
but this feels
wrong.
Theatre.
Yeah, it feels wrong because first of all, the phrase black identifying audience.
So we can all go.
Yeah,
we just have to identify as black for the night.
Fine. But of course, the old argument will always be, well, what happens if it was the other way round? What happens if it was only just a Chinese-only night or a Caucasian night or whatever? You know, it smells of racism.
Of course it does. Yeah, it's pretty dodgy. I mean, I think it was dodgy if it was a gay-only theatre night, even though most of them are.
It doesn't even smell of
what you're watching.
It's not even pandering.
I went to see a Liza Minnelli concert, believe you me, there wasn't a straight man in that room. Anyway, let's move on now to this story. This is the Scottish Daily Express.
Just cancelling my Liza Minnelli concert.
The Scottish Daily Express. This one's for you, Josh. I bet you had to do a lot of research for this story.
Yeah, so this is quite interesting. Frankie Boyle challenged by a fellow comic to publish an image of Mohammed on his social media. And this is another comic not as famous as Frank Boyle, probably one of my favourite comics in the UK. Maybe not, maybe the world. Kind of one of those comics who's like not necessarily famous, but recognised by his peers as a genius, a forward thinker, truth teller.
And he's challenged, this genius has challenged Frankie Boyle.
Yeah, challenged Frankie Boyle.
They're thinking Louis Schaefer right now.
OK, well, it wasn't Louis. It was a guy called Josh Hoyle.
Yeah, it actually says Josh Hoyle in the article.
Josh Hoyle.
But do we have the tweet? If we've got an image of the tweet, we might be able to look at this.
This is the tweet.
Oh, there it is.
There we go.
But it's actually Josh Howie!
Yay!
And Josh has said, I've known and liked Frankie for a long time, but if Islamists aren't real and Islamists aren't a problem in the UK, then I challenge him to post the Hebdo cartoon as in the cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad. I'll even make it easier, just post a handsome, heroic image of the Prophet Muhammad. Because Frankie Boyle was saying, Josh, that any time he hears the word Islamism, he assumes there's going to be a racist.
Yeah, and it sort of dismisses the issue. We have to be able to talk about problems to be able to deal with them.
Yeah.
And just to sort of... And this is, of course, what the left or the far left have done with so many issues, trans stuff. They go, oh, you're transphobic, and we can't actually really talk about these issues with adults. And in this case, of course, there is an issue with Islamists. And we've seen terrorist attacks, and we're seeing now mobs out on the streets and attacking, putting calls of genocide on.
I mean, I'd love for Frankie Boyle to sit in a room with the teacher from Batley Grammar School, who is still in hiding 3 years on, from a lesson on free speech in which he simply showed that image from Charlie Hebdo, and for Boyle to say to him, mate, there's no problem here. I don't know what you're worried about.
Yeah,
that would be really interesting.
And that was exactly what I was thinking in the shower when I composed that.
But you made the mistake of...
When I thought, I'm going to... And it's awkward, because I've known Frankie for, 20 years. I've worked for him. I've worked with him. He's a great comic. We're friends. If you get us talking about comic books, we're going to be chatting here all night. But we have fundamental... differences.
Yeah, but we need to be able to talk about them. And
we should be able to
the problem is that a tweet like the one he put out is designed to stifle speech. It's basically saying, if you want to talk about these sensitive and important issues, you're just a racist and we can call you a racist.
Absolutely.
And therefore no one's going to talk about it. And, Lewis, that is a problem, isn't it? Because this basically throws women under the bus, it throws gay people under the bus, it throws victims of Islamist intimidation under the bus.
And most importantly, Jews.
And Jews. Which I wasn't going to mention, but I knew Josh would bring it up. So why wouldn't you want to side with those marginalised people? Why would you turn against them in this?
Well, that's the problem. You've spoken about it many times. It's the intersectionality of the whole thing. Things can only meet at certain points, and then they don't quite work anymore. You know, you can maybe think, what is it, putting a round peg in a square hole or something? There's a huge difference. The thing about Frankie Boyle is he's taken a side. It's a left side, and the left side generally accepts the other side.
Yeah, but why did the left stop looking out for gay people, women, Jewish people, and those who are attacked by terrorists?
That's because the most mental thing of the last few years. When you see, queers for Palestine, it's like, you go to Gaza, you will be murdered.
Yeah.
It makes absolutely no sense.
No, OK. Well, let's move on to Thursday's Telegraph now. And this is exactly why we hired you, Lewis, to bring in all those younger viewers.
Well, because I know something. This basically says according to a survey that was done by this company, a company called Charlie Bye, and it says that young people choose TikTok over BBC for news. Like, don't we know that? And it says it says that 40% of 18 to 24-year-olds get the news from TikTok.
Although, GBNews clips do very well on TikTok, particularly among the younger generation.
Oh, maybe because because they're lazy, just waiting for it to come down, the whole thing. But the BBC responded by saying we're at a disadvantage because we have to be fair and impartial.
Yes.
And it's like, what is that called? A humble brag? It's like saying we're too good, which is why we would have a big audience if we lied. But the BBC does lie. So
why does the BBC keep appealing towards the younger audience anyway? Because let's face it, what sustains the BBC is the over 60s.
Because the BBC is, those young kids are going to be old someday, and they're going to wake up and they're going to say, we don't want to pay.
Very quickly, Josh, your thoughts
just the
on this?
BBC has been running scared for years because of these kind of figures. But it's amazing to see 2/3 of Gen Z claiming they're more likely to trust content from traditional news outlets, which means a third don't trust traditional news anymore.
Yeah, that's where we are at the moment, unfortunately.
Don't know which one we are, but...
Well, no, but that's why GB News exists.
Trust us.
Anyway.
Please.
OK, the Times now. Some good news for millennials, Josh, as long as the planet's still habitable.
Yeah, millennials set to become the richest generation in history. So there's going to be a massive transfer of wealth and assets over the next 2 decades, basically as people like Lewis die, although Lewis doesn't have, unfortunately, anything
Lewis is going to live forever.
Yeah, maybe, but doesn't matter either way. He's got nothing to pass on.
That's true.
But yeah, they're portrayed as the generation without hope, unable to get on the housing ladder.
Yes.
But as I say, people, as they pass on, the wealth that's kind of trapped within the property of people in their 60s, 70s, we are talking about trillions.
Oh, really?
That is going to be then passing on to this millennial generation.
They're going to be very rich.
They're going to be very rich, and what people are already looking at is how are they going to spend that money, and they're saying it in a more ethical way and building ethical houses.
Yeah, they say that, but when it comes to it...
Yeah, but as soon as people get rich, they're just going to be selfish like everybody else.
Oh, it's going to be Porsches and, naked chicks and
that's all
jewellery.
That's where our imagination goes, isn't it? Liza Minnelli tickets, front row.
Those weren't cheap. They weren't cheap.
No, I'm sure they weren't. I would hope not.
No.
I met Lorna Luft.
You met Lorna Luft?
I met Lorna Luft. I was doing a show. She came to my show, and I started to cry because it was Lorna. That's how you know I'm gay.
Yeah,
I started to cry when
I
didn't even know Lorna Luft is.
It's Liza Minnelli's sister. Now, come on. Right.
Yeah.
Tell me what's
the problem is the millennials didn't earn it, and so they're going to waste it. So all the money's going to be gone. Yeah. They're going to give it away to different foreign countries.
Look, that is. We've just got one more section of the show to go. Please don't go anywhere because we're going to be going out with a bang. Dragon soup, Peppa Pig, gene-edited pigs. It's crazy. See you in 2 minutes.
Pigs.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
You have a president in President Biden who's not enforcing the law that was passed by Congress. President Obama, criticize him or not, actually enforced the law and was deporting people that had crossed illegally. Of course, President Trump enforced the law and improved the law to make sure that and worked with Mexico to have the Remain in Mexico policy. Biden has abandoned federal policy. In fact, he's deliberately trying to let in as many immigrants as possible. More for the Democrats, more is better and less is racist.
Just astonishing. And the statement that Greg Abbott put out is really feisty stuff. He said the federal government has broken the contract between the United States and the state of Texas. And the eye numbers, Greg, are simply eye-watering. 6 million illegal immigrants have crossed our southern border in just 3 years, Governor Abbott says. That's more than the population of 33 states the United States. Astonishing numbers.
And Martin, that's just Texas. If you add Arizona and other border states, you know, it's pushing 10 million. By the end of Biden's term, it'll be 11 million. A study by Yale University a few weeks ago, 3 very liberal professors that did the study estimate there's 22 million illegal aliens. So this is a crisis that was created by Biden. It's what he wants. They want unfettered access to the border. They're letting them in. It's a real hardship on the working people of Texas and other border states. And now it's a real hardship on cities that the federal government, as well as the governors of Texas and other states, are sending some of the migrants to those so-called sanctuary cities.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Thursday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle. I'm here with Lewis Schaefer and Josh Howie. We're going to kick off this final section with The Independent. What's this new drug all the kids are injecting and smoking, Josh?
Dragon soup.
Dragon soup.
But like S-O-O-P.
Because it's cool.
Yeah. But it's a caffeinated alcoholic drink. I don't know if...
So it's legal?
Yeah, so it is legal, but I imagine not for teenagers.
Yeah, but they're saying there's a surge in violence off the back of a drink. Isn't it just like drinking Pepsi Max or something?
Well, it's got 7.5% ABV.
What's that?
I don't know.
ABV?
Alcohol.
Oh, it's got
by
alcohol.
volume.
Oh, so you can't drink it.
But it's got alcohol and caffeine. So it's sending them all bonkers.
So it's like having a Jaeger bomb.
Yeah, and it's like the old... We used to have cider.
Yeah.
It's sort of the equivalent of that, but it's
Or Red Bull.
crimes and violence.
Look, this is just people worrying about this stuff. It was always, when I was a kid, it was white lightning that we were having in the crib. You know what I'm saying?
It's the Newcastle city centre, and they're saying groups of up to 30 young people gathering and saying, if I might be so bold, if we happen to have any of these 30 youths, just get a Palestinian flag and chant for the genocide of Jews, and the police will leave you alone.
I knew he'd have to get it in. Lewis, what do you think?
I thought that was a good joke.
It was a good joke, but we can't laugh at that anymore.
Too painful.
Should we not just leave the kids alone? Of course,
we should just leave the
something
kids
to complain
alone.
about with the kids, but the kids, they're going to grow up.
I remember we had mead.
What's it? You had mead.
Is that when you were a Viking?
Yeah.
And sack. You used to drink sack.
And I remember when they complained the kids were drinking Tang. Did they have Tang in this country?
We didn't have.
No, we didn't have
Pop
Tang.
Rocks. Remember Pop Rocks?
Well, I'm going to lure you away from this from memory lane, and we're going to go on to this news. Peppa Pig news in the Mirror. What is the scoop? Grandpa Pig.
The scoop is that Peppa Pig author Francesca. Peppa Pig is created by Horrid Henry. Encouraging kids to be naughty is a good thing. Basically,
the worst introduction.
I know
of
because
this story.
No, wait a minute. Francesca Simon, who's the author of Horrid Henry, is defending Peppa Pig.
Isn't that the same show?
No, it's a different show.
So they're defending each other then?
Yeah. Children's authors defending other children's authors. It has been known to happen.
It brought back horrible memories of when I was the stay-at-home father of my
having to watch all
children.
the TV shows.
I never watched them, and I just heard the complaining.
Anyway, Josh,
maybe you should have turned
what's
the TV
so bad with Peppa Pig encouraging kids to be naughty, right? Because the character's naughty, right?
Yeah, and so that was what they were arguing on Good Morning
That's
Britain.
ridiculous.
Yeah, but the argument would be that it sort of shows them stuff that they shouldn't really be doing. But of course, it's going to be Horrid Henry. If I'm honest, I've got a lot of experience with all of these. Horrid Henry is the one that really winds me up.
Okay, Josh,
because he's not redeemable in any way.
What about Goldilocks? Breaking into those bears' houses, breaking and entering, eating their food, sleeping with their wife or whatever. Like, all of that stuff was just outrageous.
Is this a particular...
It was a version I was read.
Okay.
Yeah, it was outrageous. OK, let's move on to this next one. Daily Star.
If you could send that to me, I'd appreciate it.
Josh, what's this story in the Star? Does this mean you can finally eat bacon?
Ooh, that would be good. Virus-resistant, gene-edited pigs could soon be slaughtered for supermarket shelves.
So they're not real pigs, they're computerised pigs?
No, they are real pigs whose genes have been edited to make them less susceptible to certain pig diseases.
Does that make them kosher?
Well, there was a very good film, Leon the Pig Farmer, directed actually by a friend of mine who directed the
I've seen
series.
it.
Yeah, and there was like a hybrid pig sort of cow thing, I think. It was,
yes, in a sports bag, if I remember right.
Yeah, and that's it. And so it was like, was that kosher? That was the big debate.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I wonder if there's some level which you can fundamentally change pigs enough where, I mean, I would love a bacon sandwich.
Yeah.
I mean, not me. What do you think, Lewis? Are you a fan?
I think they've been doing this forever. They've mated pigs, Luther Burbank. They've taken animals. They take the big ones and they merge them with other big ones to make more big ones. There's no news here. I don't know enough about. I hate to say that I don't know enough about this, but haven't we been gene editing with the COVID vaccine?
I wouldn't even eat a gene-edited bacon. I never liked bacon, even when I wasn't a vegetarian.
When gene-edited pigs take over the world, they're going to look at this story and they're going to be laughing.
Let's move on. You know what I miss? Fried seahorse. It's the only meat I miss. All right, let's move on to this one. All right, Governor, Daily Mail with some Cockney slang from our resident dental flosser. Lewis.
Well, you know what that means, dental flosser?
No, I don't know what that means.
Think about it. Dental flosser.
It doesn't matter.
Oh, with a T-O.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've lived in this country long enough, I can figure out. Why not
quickly, Lewis?
Why not just? This is about the loss of a culture. About how would you Adam and Eve it? Now the definition of Cockney should be more diverse. They want to include lots of people in London because the truth is the true Cockneys have either moved out to Essex and died.
Oh, but it's all gentrified around Bow Bells now,
and it's all Bow Bells.
Josh, very quickly, do you have any thoughts on this particular story?
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It is a language, or arguably you could make it. They're trying to sort of say that a petition for the council to preserve the dialect. I think it's good. Like, this is part of our history. It's really interesting. It's sort of Yiddish, Romani, German language in the 1800s. And the reason why they became Cockney, let's just do the slang bit, is because they wanted to hide what they were selling from the police. So they used Cockney slang. There we go.
Very interesting, Josh. The show is nearly over, however. We're going to take another quick look at Thursday's front pages. And so we kind of start with the Daily Mail, which is leading with PM tells police chiefs time to end mob rule. The Telegraph runs with Hunt looks at ditching non-dom tax perk. The Guardian has the largest review of ultra-processed foods, warns of 32 damaging effects. The Mirror runs with never had it so bad. The iNews is leading with budget won't fix UK's unfair £50,000 child benefit rule so Hunt can afford tax cuts. And finally, the Daily Star, let them eat flakes. Those were your front pages. That's all we've got time for. Headliners is back tomorrow at 11 o'clock. But if you are watching the repeat at 5 o'clock, do stick around because now it's time for breakfast.
I'm not giving you a...
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again, it's Aidan McGibbon here from the Met Office with the GB News forecast. Mild at first, but we're going to see outbreaks of rain move across the country over the next 24 hours, ushering in colder weather by Friday. Now, we've got low pressure at the moment, anchored to the northwest of Scotland, bringing us